Hi, my name is Christie Reynolds, and I am one of the counselors at the University Counseling Center.
Hi, I'm Cara Cerullo, and I'm also one of the counselors at the University Counseling Center. And we're happy that you've decided to join us today. We are going to talk a little bit about depressive symptoms. And just because you're experiencing symptoms of depression during a pandemic and COVID-19, that doesn't necessarily mean that you meet the requirements for a diagnosis of a depressive disorder. We just want to talk about some symptoms that you might be experiencing to normalize those, and then also to talk a little bit about how to cope with some of those symptoms during such an uncertain and scary time. So I'm going to send it over to Christy, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about the physical symptoms that you might experience.
So some symptoms that you might be noticing would be an effect on your motivation, lower drive to really get things done, maybe some low energy. Your sleep might be affected at this time, whether it's because you're finding yourself just sleeping all day long, sleeping for more hours than you usually do, and or sleep where you can't seem to quite get to sleep, or staying up throughout the whole night, or maybe you are falling asleep, except you just can't seem to stay asleep and you're constantly waking up throughout the night. Your appetite can be something else that can be affected by everything, whether it's eating all the time, eating too much and increasing your appetite, or having a decrease in your appetite where you don't really have many meals throughout the day and you find yourself eating less than you typically would have. And finally, another symptom would be social withdrawing. So not really connecting with friends or family during this time. Those are more of the ones that you'll probably feel and notice in terms of behavior change. But there's also a lot that goes on internally with us in terms of our emotions. There is just a huge gamut of emotions that you're probably being flooded with right now. You know, sadness, some guilt, maybe even shame, frustration, feelings of anxiety and everything that goes along with being anxious, disappointment, anger, grief. I mean, the list can go on.
I think that one of the things you might notice too is the variability of emotions. So one minute you might be feeling really frustrated, and the next minute you might be feeling sad or lonely. And that's all very normal for a stressful time such as this. One of the things that I want to bring up is the idea of stacked emotions. So having one emotion on top of the other. So where I'm hearing that a lot nowadays is I'm feeling disappointed because maybe I don't get the graduation ceremony that I, had really hoped for or been excited for. But now I feel guilt for feeling disappointed about the loss of graduation ceremony because I have my health, and I haven't actually lost an individual. And one of the things I've heard about that is really the worst loss is your own loss, right? And so you have the right to feel disappointed or sad or frustrated that you lost graduation or lost the opportunity to be on campus to complete the semester. So really having feelings about feelings, that guilt that comes along with some of those other feelings, and just allowing, paying attention, normalizing and validating your experience, and really trying to do so without judgment and without comparing what your experience is like compared to others' experiences during this difficult time.
Absolutely. And I think that one of the things that you might notice is, I think especially in a world with social media everywhere, that you might see somebody posting, oh, I'm so grateful I get to be home and watch all the fancy projects and look at all this life changes that I'm making. But again, you're noticing that one aspect of what they're going through. You might not see that while yes, they are grateful and happy at that moment, there could also be that other piece of, but they're also overwhelmed, right? And I think, that's a big one for me that I can relate to. While I'm grateful to be home with my kids, I'm also partly overwhelmed with having to balance the work at home, but also, still being a mother to them. So it's absolutely fair to say, hey, I'm overwhelmed, but I'm also really happy to be here in this position. You know, those double feelings are allowed. And I think with what Cara was saying, when she talks about these stacked emotions, sometimes it's even harder because you're already feeling sad, and then to have some guilt stacked on top of that sadness, it really is just amplifying feeling negative, feeling poorly about yourself.
I think again, it goes back to really honoring where you're at, and that can change minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, week by week. And just sitting with that for a period of time, and then learning how to effectively regulate that emotion in a way that isn't completely avoidant of the experience itself, but really just allowing you to cope with that emotion. And so that's something that we wanted to talk about too, is what are some ways that you can cope during this strange time. So I'm going to again pass it off to Christie to share some coping skills, and then I'll share some of my own as well.
Okay. I think some real just basic day-to-day coping would be trying to stay on a schedule. I know for some of you, you maybe are employed and headed off to the office. For those of you that are students and aren't going to school or working from home, there are ways to keep yourself on schedule, right? So trying to wake up at the same time every day, which PS, it's just good for your sleep anyway. I mean, if you're also struggling, one of those people that's noticing a change in your sleep, this right here is something that is also going to benefit that piece as well. So getting to sleep about the same time every night, waking up at the same time for your sleep. And then also getting up and getting dressed in the morning, really setting an intention to start functioning for that day. I thought she had something to say, I guess not. So another piece of it would be to get outside. I know we went through a crazy snowstorm in the middle of April, but there is still nice days out there, right? So head on outside, even just if you need to read something for work or for an assignment, try doing it outdoors. Going for a walk, exercise is very important. And I think when it comes to coping, exercise can help in so many different ways. And I don't mean it doesn't have to be something rigorous. A 15-minute walk outside, right? Double benefit right there can really change your mood.
And I think some of the things that Christie is talking about really is what I call preventative self-care. So it really is a way to help buffer some of the extra stressors that we're experiencing right now, in addition to the label that I give reactive self-care, which is, I'm having a feeling or I'm having an experience and I'm really uncomfortable with this experience. Now what do I do? And that could be using relaxation techniques or meditations. It could be, getting outside and doing exercise, listening to music, calling a friend, which we'll talk about as well. Again, that connectedness is so very important and valuable. We often look at, okay, well, those are all good things to do, coping skills, but I just don't have the motivation to do them, right? And so one of the things that I talk to students about is we often wait for the motivation to act. Sometimes the action creates the motivation. So the example I often give is running. There are mornings that I don't feel like getting up and going for a run. And so the first action step I take is putting my shoes on. And the second one is just stepping outside. And then I can decide, do I want to go for a run? Do I want to go for a walk? And often I'm already outside, so I'm not going to go back to bed. I might as well, go for the run or go for the walk. And I find the motivation in the action. And I find that I feel good. And so I'm likely to repeat that again in the future. So taking that first step, whatever that might be, and that could be, for students, it could be opening up the exercise or activity or assignment, just reading the instructions, putting your name on the piece of paper.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be a large step. It can be a very small step to get you moving in the right direction.
And if I hear you talk about all this, it also makes me think that as we describe some of these symptoms, they can also be perceived in a in a more negative way, even within yourself. So for those of you that are struggling with motivation or energy or concentration, it's so easy to just say, oh, I'm just being lazy. Oh, I'm just a bad student. And I think that the importance of what you're saying to yourself really matters right now, because had you have just simply said, you know, Cara, when you're talking about, I really don't have the motivation for it, has she just said to herself, I'm just lazy, and went back to bed, right? So knowing that, hey, I'm experiencing some low motivation here, and how can I increase that motivation? I think that piece is really big too, because how you speak to yourself is really going to impact what you do about that behavior or that physiological symptom that you're experiencing.
Absolutely. And then we just want to remind you that it's okay to not be okay. It is a very strange, difficult world that we're in right now. And so again, maybe your coping for that day is to stay in bed and get some extra sleep. Maybe it is to lay on the couch and watch Netflix and binge watch TV or your favorite television show. That's okay too. We all deserve some extra kindness and compassion during this experience, and just, again, validating what you need and honoring what you need for that particular moment and that particular day.
And I think I love that you use the word validation, because I was just going to also say, when you said that, I was going to say that the bigger picture here, and I think what I'm hearing as a theme is the validation piece, just being okay with wherever you are at, right? If today you've got a ton of homework done, wonderful. If tomorrow you don't, that's okay too, right? So again, just really validating yourself on how you feel. Don't just push those feelings aside. You know, let them come in, figure out what's going on and how you can really work towards bettering your mood or increasing your energy or what it is that you need.
And Christie mentioned earlier, one of the other common symptoms that we see is withdrawing from others or social isolation. And during the safer at home or shelter in place, we're being asked to physically distance ourselves from others. And so we don't have the luxury of being able to see our peers, our friends, our coworkers in person. But there is still opportunities to feel socially connected. And I think it's really important that we embrace those opportunities. Maybe we create a coffee date virtually with our friends, or a lunch date with our friends. Just continuing to be intentional about that social connection can really improve your mood.
You know, and I think you can kind of conquer a lot of these symptoms, and even together, right? We mentioned a coffee date. So are you somebody that's really just struggling to get out of bed? Well, you know, you can purposely, now Cara's an early riser, and I used to be back in the day, but now I like to sleep in. So if I needed to be up, and I purposely do this for myself, if I have a meeting with Cara, or we're, you know, having discussions via Zoom, I set them up early. You know, she's my 8 o'clock meeting. She's my go-to 8 a.m. So, you know, if I was one of those people that was struggling with sleep, well, now I have set myself up and being intentional on, I'm going to get up at 8 o'clock, right? Again, if my appetite is being affected and I know that I haven't had much of an appetite this week, well, I can let Cara know, and she can say, okay, well, we're doing breakfast as well. So now I have getting up early. Now I'm actually getting dressed and probably going to eat or have coffee and do some work at the same time. So I'm really tackling a lot of those symptoms that I'm experiencing in one little place right there.
Absolutely. We mentioned some things that you can do without any extra resources available to you. Most of these things are, again, fairly simple, which we're not trying to oversimplify it, but we want you to keep it simple during difficult times, because that's more manageable and you're more likely to actually follow through if it is simple. But we also want to share with you some additional resources that are available to you. And our colleagues are going to be doing a couple of these presentations as well, and they will also share additional resources. But I'd like to share with you our website. On our website, this is the University Counseling Center website, and you'll notice that we have come up with different apps, most of which are free. Some of the versions of these apps do have a cost, but you can get a baseline version for free. We also have set up some mental health podcasts. One of my favorites that I've been listening to is Brene Brown, Unlocking Us. Again, free, and she highlights a lot of different authors. So you could, if you liked one of the guests on her podcast, you could actually get a book and read a book as well. You'll see we have links to additional resources, some specific to COVID-19. We have something that we've always had on our website, which is the relaxation station. And you can use that to find relaxation techniques, tips, meditations, etc. And then we also have this NAMI COVID-19 resource guide. I really like this one because it's very extensive. Any kind of topic or area of interest or concern, they're going to have a resource for you. So if you're struggling with unemployment or financial concerns, if you're struggling with housing, additional mental health concerns, they're going to provide you either a website or a phone number to call that you can utilize as a resource. Our office still remains open virtually or remotely, so you can call Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, and you will reach someone. If you are unable to immediately, leave a message or call back within the hour, and one of our staff members will be able to guide you to some additional resources or support. If you're a student and you're eligible, you could potentially get scheduled for telemental health sessions as well. So those are some of the resources we wanted to share. Christie, are there any resources that I didn't highlight that you think would be important for our students or others to know?
I think you did a great job. I think right now in the world that we live in, the access to so many amazing resources is out there. There's a ton of YouTube videos as well with yoga and some different sounds that that people are doing out there for relaxation, some soothing music. I mean, the possibility is endless. And, you know, with me saying that, I think before we go, something to mention also is that as you're searching for all this, find what fits you. Don't try to force something to fit you, but really, what can you connect with? I remember years ago, I was told when I tried doing meditation, because it was, you know, really up and coming at that time, that I was doing meditation wrong because I could not sit for a long extended period and just sit with myself. That was very difficult for me. I'm learning, but what I found was that I also didn't enjoy it. And so for me, what I found was that being in nature and taking long, quiet walks. One day I was out at Lake Argyle enjoying the scenery. And I thought to myself, wow, you know, I don't play any music out here. I'm not talking with anybody. I'm just with myself and not even in my thoughts, just enjoy nature. And it dawned on me that was my form of meditation. That was where I was finding my mindfulness, my peace. And so it doesn't have to be exactly what you're reading or exactly how they're telling you to do it. Make it to where it's your own and something that you can really connect to.
Absolutely. Again, tons of resources out there for that. And practice and find what works, utilize them, and, you know, connect with us. If you need additional support or resources, that's what we're here for. We hope to see you all again soon on campus in the future. We appreciate the support that our faculty, staff, friends, family, and alumni are giving our students during this difficult time. So thank you for the support. And we will hopefully meet again with a different topic or area of interest in the future. So thank you again for listening. Christie, anything else you'd like to say as we sign off?
No, thank you. And yeah, we absolutely appreciate what everybody is doing in the community and at Western Illinois University.
All right, thank you and have a good rest of your day.